Pace explains, Pace explains, out of her mouth and into your brains.
Hi, I'm Pace, and today I'm going to explain spiral dynamics. So, spiral dynamics is a system of understanding the world. It's a system of understanding a worldview or a paradigm. Just like the basic set of assumptions that shape the way that people think and shapes the way that cultures act. And it's done in this system of colors that are supposed to be just totally arbitrary, so you just have to remember them. There's there's beige, and then there's purple, and then there's red. We don't have time for that. We're going to go straight to the more interesting ones. Blue, and then it's going to go orange, green, yellow, and that's what we're going to focus on. So blue is a worldview in which there is one right way to live, and I need to sacrifice my own personal desires for what's right. Dogmatic religions are in this blue worldview. It's a really good example of what it's like to be there. And so if I am in this blue worldview, then I'm going to see the world in black and white. I'm going to see like there's a right way to be, there's a wrong way to be, and I need to align myself with the group that is in the right. And like conservative American politics, a lot of times you'll see this has a very blue mindset. People who are in the blue mindset are like, but I want to express my individuality. And then orange is born from that. And orange is an individualistic mindset. It's rational, it's capitalist, it's hierarchical. And so it sees the world as a problem to be solved and a game to be won. And so like scientific advances come from the orange mindset. And but also like billionaires come from the orange mindset. And so, each of these has its strengths and weaknesses. Also, each one of them transcends and includes the previous one. So when you are in an orange mindset, you can still think about, oh, I understand this blue mindset. Like this was like I once felt that way because in theory, culture and a person you have to go through each turn of the spiral. You can't just skip ahead. And so when you're at orange, then you're winning at this game, you're accumulating wealth or power, but then you might be like, hey, I feel kind of empty inside, and that's the next turn of the spiral, which is green. And green is the one color that actually is easy to remember because it's like the green movement, where it's all love, it's all compassion, it's consensus based instead of hierarchy. It's loving each other, loving the planet. Let's all act with compassion, and love conquers all. Everything's going to be okay. And so if you take a step back for a second, orange is all power with no love. Green is all love with no power. It's like, oh, orange, that was a bad way to be. I can remember what it's like to be that way. I don't want to be that way anymore. And this you'll see in liberal American politics, a lot of it is green. And this explains a lot of what happens to orange? We got a two-party system. You've got blue as the conservatives, and you've got green as liberals, where orange is in the middle. And so orange gets sliced in two, and the science part of it goes toward green, and the capitalist part of it, the big business money stuff, goes with blue. And it's like, that's what we see. And so it slices up along the lines of the spiral. And then lastly, we've got yellow, where if you're in green and you're like, okay, this is great, but we're not actually accomplishing what we hoped to because people who are willing to use more effective tactics, even if they're not 100% ethical, are kicking our butts. Then there's yellow, which comes after that, which is flex and flow. It's power in service of love. It's being able to adapt to whatever the changing needs of the situation are instead of being stuck in any particular worldview. And the thing is, yellow is the first one in which you can really see, oh, I'm switching worldviews instead of just this is the way that the world is, and I used to be wrong, but now I really get it, and those other people over there are wrong. If you're in any one of the worldviews below yellow, you're likely to feel that your way is the best way to be and the right way to be. And whereas in yellow, you can kind of be like, oh well, this is the right worldview for this situation. This is the right worldview for this other situation. So why is this useful? Well, for one, it's useful just to understand why people do the things that they do and why societies do the things they do. Two, it's useful to understand how people and cultures change and evolve. The theory says that you've got to go one rung of the spiral at a time, and you can't skip. Which means, for example, if there's a say that there's a culture that you're trying to shift. Let's take Afghanistan, for example. And Afghanistan is a very blue culture. It's very religious based. It's very dogmatic. It's very fun. I wouldn't say completely fundamentalist, but there's a lot of rules, and you're supposed to sacrifice your personal desires for the will of the group. That's a blue culture. So if we're like, hey, we want to bring civil rights to Afghanistan, that is a green movement, and that's skipping orange. And so the theory says that the most effective thing to do would be to do things like promote education and wealth, which are more orange things, because you got to go through orange before you get to green. So that's a kind of an example of major social change that can be informed by spiral dynamics. It can also inform, the personal analog of that, where you personally need to go through the spiral in order. And it's just hella useful for understanding what makes people tick and what makes the world work the way it works.
Pace explains, Pace explains, out of her mouth and into your brains.